Welcome to season 3 of the Living and Learning podcast. We are so excited to hear more about how our mission statement is actually lived out across each of our programs. We're going to hear stories about excellent academics, living in community, and what it looks like to engage in the world with a biblical worldview. We are so excited to spend some time with you together. Hey everybody, welcome back to our Living and Learning podcast. We are so excited that you're here, whether you are a student who's thinking about studying abroad or a parent or someone who is supporting students who are studying abroad. We are super excited to have you. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Sara and I get to support students who are enrolling in our semester programs. And I have a super special and fun guest with us today. This is Sam. And so Sam would love to hear a little bit about you. What university did you come from? Where did you study abroad with Living and Learning? And would just love to learn a little bit about you to start us off.
My name is Sam, and I studied abroad in Ecuador with Living and Learning this past spring, so spring 2025. And I attend Malone University, which is like a smaller private school in Ohio, which is also where I'm from. And that's also how I got connected with Living and Learning, was through my college.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Were you connected through like a study abroad fair or something? Or how did you learn about Living and Learning?
Kind of. On our website for my college, they have like a study abroad section, and then there was just a list, and they had all of the Living and Learning programs on there, and then a bunch of other programs that had like all kinds of different campuses and areas. But I kind of just like looked at them all, and Ecuador was the one that I love the most.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you and just learn specifically with Sam. We're going to talk through the portion, again, of our mission statement. We're focusing on different aspects of our mission statement throughout this season. And so specifically with Sam, we're going to chat through what it looked like for her to engage in the challenges of the world through the lens of a biblical Christian worldview, specifically in Quito, Ecuador. So we're going to take a quick break before we finish hearing Sam's story. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Rachel Ruskowski, Director of Experiential Tours with Living and Learning International, and I would love to invite you today to start planning your study abroad program for next year. We would love to connect you directly with one of our regional program managers that will work with you to create a custom experience for you and your students. So what are you waiting for? Send us an email and let's get started.
Okay, Sam. So you were in Quito in the spring, which is in Ecuador. And for folks who may not know, Ecuador is a country in South America. And so it is a Spanish-speaking country. And so tell us a little bit about what that was like for you. Did you have any like prior context of Spanish as a language? And if not, how did that kind of influence what your semester looked like?
Yeah, so I took Spanish in high school, so I knew some Spanish going into studying abroad in Ecuador, but I feel like I forgot a lot of it before I actually, like, just this time between, like, high school and last spring, I just forgot pretty much all of it. But I think once I got to Ecuador, it started coming back to me, and I was, like, remembering a lot of things, especially like the basics of greetings and stuff. And one of my first interactions in Ecuador was actually when my plane landed and the lady next to me was Ecuadorian and she just started talking to me in Spanish. And in my mind, I started freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't remember Spanish. And then it just kind of came back to me and I was able to have a really good conversation with her and all in Spanish, and I understood her and I was able to like communicate back with her. And I think that kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. And then I had like go through customs and everything, and I was by myself because some students flew on the same flights, but no one was on my flight, so I was kind of navigating it with just like some of the Spanish that I remembered. But then I also took a Spanish class in Ecuador as part of one of my classes. I think, yeah, it's pretty sure it's mandatory that everyone had to take a
Mm-hmm.
Spanish class, but I took one. So then I started remembering a lot of the Spanish that I had learned in high school, which helped me a lot to improve my Spanish. And but I think it's just, I think it can be said for most languages, it's pretty easy to lose it if you're not
Yep.
practicing it and keeping up with it. So even coming back, I've only been back in the United States for maybe like 3 or 4 months, and I still feel like I've forgotten a lot because just
Mm,
haven't had too many interactions in Spanish. Um, but I want to practice it more. I haven't a lot, but I want to not lose it completely like I did last time. But yeah, I had a Spanish class in Ecuador, and then we also had a homestay, so that really really helped me improve my Spanish because one of the 4 months we stayed with an Ecuadorian family, and most of them didn't know any English. Some knew some English,
mm,
and I was with two older ladies. They're I call them my mamas, and they're
mm.
sisters, and they're like in their 70s, but they're the
Oh my
sweetest
gosh.
ever. Yeah,
Mm,
it was so sweet. They were
yeah.
a lot of fun. So I learned so much from them, and they would like teach me Spanish, and they would correct me when I made mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really helped me just improve my Spanish and get better. And yeah, I think it's also just important learning about a language when you're in a different culture because it kind of helps you learn more about the people and the
Mm-hmm.
context that you're living in and how to interact with them. And yeah, I think language is a big
Yeah.
part of studying abroad.
Yeah. Yeah. And even to that point, like learning about the people who are living in the country that you're studying in through
Mhm.
learning the language that they speak. What was that like for you? Like, what were some of the things that you feel like you learned about Ecuadorians or the culture through learning their native language?
Yeah. Um, I think I learned they're very expressive and
Yeah.
just so loving. Like my mamas, they would always like greet me like my precious princess, like in Spanish,
Yeah.
like, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so I learned, and they're always like, oh, like, and so I think learning those things in Spanish and just like also the framework of sentences and stuff really helped me to learn like how they talk to one another and how like I can interact with them as well, even if it's different from like what the US might be. And especially greetings. I think everyone greets each other. In Ecuador, I noticed like even strangers on the street, they'll like at least smile at you or they'll be like, Buenos dias. And so
Hmm.
and I feel like here it's not really like that. Like people might smile, but not like good morning, good evening, as much as it's like a thing. Like every person does it, even if you have like close relation with them or not. So I think, yeah, I love that. Actually, I really appreciate that
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah. That's super beautiful. And I think it
Yeah.
is like, it's so sweet to think about how language actually does shape like worldview. Like the way that language creates opportunities for people to interact with each other or for people to just honor one another in relationship
Hmm.
is really beautiful. So yeah, even you've talked a little bit about greetings and how that kind of shaped your interactions. Was there any particular like phrase or words in Spanish that you were like, oh my gosh, that's really beautiful, I want to like continue utilizing that, or yeah, things like that?
Yeah. I don't know if there is like necessarily a phrase that really stuck with me, but I think just a lot of Spanish words that I learned really stuck with me. And I find myself like being back home, I will randomly say them. And it's funny because it's like to my family or friends that don't know Spanish. And so they're
Yeah.
like, what is she saying? But I'll just like randomly say words in Spanish and like, it's just like my Spanish brain just like
Yeah.
coming back and just like intersecting with my English. And I think it also goes back to in our apartment with some of the other girls in the program. We would always just say like random words in Spanish because we'd always be, all of us had a Spanish class. We're always like learning new fun words, and we'd just say like random words in the middle of talking in English. And now I notice that I do that all the time here, or even greetings. I'll say greetings in Spanish, and my family, they've kind of caught on what some of the greetings mean, but they're just like, what? But
Yeah, I love that. Even
mhm.
like the little ways that our experiences abroad continue to trickle in like
Yeah.
over the course of our whole lives. Like I just think that's so sweet. Even if it's something that feels as small as like a greeting to a family member is actually reminiscent of something that was really beautiful during your
Mhm.
semester abroad
Yeah.
with your mamas who you like did your homestay with. That's super special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are going to take one more break before we jump into some more questions and learning a little bit more about Sam. So stay tuned and we will be right back.
Want to be the first to know when we're waiving application fees for our study abroad programs? Hear exciting updates about new opportunities? And always know when our team will be visiting your campus? Subscribe to our newsletter. It's a quick, short email once a month that keeps you in the loop with living and learning. Subscribe today using the link in the episode show notes or on our website.
Okay, welcome back everybody. We have talked a little bit with Sam about language learning and kind of what that has looked like for her in shaping the way that she thought about relationships in Quito during her semester abroad. And that is something that as an organization we are really intentional about, is just being a space for students to understand the worldviews that they are coming from wherever their home context is in the US, and how they sit with that during an international semester. And so, yeah, Sam, would love to just learn a little bit more from you about what that looked like in terms of even your own worldview coming into your semester in Ecuador. Do you feel like you had an idea of what that was entering in to your semester before you even really started engaging that in Quito?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had a pretty good idea of like what my worldview was, kind of what I believed, where I stood. Um, but I think I didn't really think about it as deeply as I have since then. I think
Yeah.
Ecuador has really like challenged me to really think about my worldview and my beliefs at a deeper level, and not even just like my Christian worldview, but also all areas of my life, like with the world, people, and interacting with them, and friendships, and just everything. I feel like worldview is a very broad subject, but and there's so many different things. So I think I was able to think more deeply about it and be challenged in that way, to just learn more and kind of like ask questions and learn different perspectives and see what I believe, after kind of hearing more perspectives than just like maybe the same thing that I've always heard.
Yeah, that's good. And that's, yeah, the beauty of curiosity and knowing that you come from a particular context or a particular way of thinking. But yeah, when you move to a new country for a few months, there are going to be folks around you who think differently. And so to have that kind of posture of asking questions to get to know where they're coming from a little bit deeper is super beautiful. And so I think even when thinking about the different maybe like components of a worldview, where it's like the way that you think about yourself, the way that you think about people, the way that you think about the world, and the way that you think about who God is, was there maybe like one component that was really formative for you during your semester abroad that was like really reshaped by your semester?
I think that my Christian worldview grew really deep because
Mm,
of I think Living and Learning does a really amazing job of like emphasizing worldview and how important that is. And so even like the first week or two, the very first thing kind of that we all did together was we had worldview sessions, and we talked specifically about our Christian worldview and just all kinds of things about God and the Bible and our beliefs and different perspectives on different things like creation, or just like all kinds of different areas
yeah.
of the Bible of how people come from different beliefs and different perspectives, and kind of like seeing them all and thinking like just processing them and kind of thinking what how we feel about them and what we think about them. And I think I really appreciated that because we all were just challenged in a way to think more deeply about our worldview. But it was kind of just unique because none of us really knew each other. So it was like one of our
Yeah.
very first things was like diving straight into the deep end of talking about worldview. And Lauren, one of the staff members in Quito, he was leading it, and he like led it so well, and he
Mm.
was made it very discussional, and so everyone was asking questions, or he would ask us questions and want to know like our perspective on things, and then he would share what he thought, and we would dive into the Bible and see what the Bible says and what God says. And I just think I learned so much about the Christian worldview, and it really challenged me to see all the different perspectives and kind of just sit in my thoughts and really think and process and ask questions and see, yeah, just kind of what I believe after taking it all in.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that even yeah, highlighting that environment of talking through worldview in a discussion kind of format alongside Lauren, who is facilitating and teaching in that space with your cohort, is I know kind of one of the ways that you all have spaces to be able to process through those things. So, thanks for sharing about that. And even as you reflect on your semester, what were some other spaces during your semester where you were able to feel this sense of safety to kind of process through all of the different things that were
Yeah.
sinking in as you were experiencing them in your semester abroad?
Yeah, I I found that space often in my friends that I made in Ecuador. I
Mm,
think I made some really like deep friendships with a lot of the girls, especially some of the ones that I lived with specifically in my apartment, and we were able to have a lot of conversations even about like our worldview class. We were able to have that space where we could talk about those questions that we had and kind of process it even further after having our sessions. But I've also found that space in my one on ones, which basically we would meet like once, I think every other week with our RC and kind of just talk about life. And if we had any questions, we could talk to them about it. And sometimes they would ask us questions and just talk about whatever was on our heart, whatever was, yeah, anything that we wanted to talk about. Literally, I've talked about serious things and super unserious things, so it could be
yeah.
anything. But I think I had a lot of really just fruitful conversation that helps me process those things more. And I know a lot of students, it's really common to experience like culture shock or homesickness. And so I think people a lot of times would talk about that in their one on ones because it's something that is hard and a part of living cross culturally, and just something that is really important to talk through, especially with someone else, instead of just kind of sitting in it with yourself.
Yeah, totally. Do you feel like the like that process of sifting through those things alongside someone, was that something that you had been familiar with doing, or was that kind of a new um yeah, way of thinking through what you were experiencing in processing that with someone else? Like, are you typically someone who brings people into that, or was your semester in Ecuador kind of a new way of doing that for you?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've done before, and I like doing it that way better than like by myself. But
Yeah.
I also think it's kind of hard to just like being very open with someone that you're just meeting. But as the semester went on, like I got really close with my RC because we'd always be having these conversations, and even outside of our one-on-ones, we would talk and meet up and still
Mm.
carry on those conversations that we would have in our one-on-ones. And so I think I was able to really lean into that, um, and just really have great conversation and hear feedback from someone else and their thoughts. And yeah, I think that was really important.
Yeah, yeah. Even that idea of what you just mentioned of hearing feedback from someone else, like that, I think that is really powerful and really helpful
Mhm.
to, especially when you're living cross culturally, to get out all of the things that are going on in your brain as you're experiencing them, and to hear from someone externally, you know, like, hey, that's actually feels really impactful. Why don't we like sit on that for a little bit? Like, why don't we continue
Mhm.
thinking through this thing, or identifying like, hey, it sounds like maybe you've actually like believed a lie about yourself in this, and now that we're talking
Yeah.
about it, we can like recognize that that's not true. So that's a really beautiful yeah, just opportunity for your own, again, just recognition of how you think about yourself and the world and all of these things, and inviting someone into that with you.
Mhm.
um like you're saying, that is really vulnerable. That is a
Yeah.
really intimate space to be in with someone. And so I think even for folks listening, to just encourage them that there's going to be really powerful conversations that are had during the semester if you push
Mhm.
into that. Like if you press in,
Yes. Yeah.
really, really beautiful conversations can be had. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing a little bit about that. Because I
Yeah.
think um, when we think of maybe studying abroad, there's so many different things that run through our mind when we think about that. Um, and I think one of the things that maybe we don't think about as much is like the deep intimacy and vulnerability that's built
Mhm.
with folks that we're doing that with. So even as you've mentioned that you've been back in the US for a few months now. So as you've been back, what have been maybe some of the ways that you have integrated or are trying to integrate yeah, these new perspectives that you've gained as you're now back home in your home
Yeah.
context?
Well, I think I learned a lot about myself in
Yeah.
Ecuador because it was kind of one of the first times that I was really living on my own for that long. At my college, I commute to my campus, so I still live at my house. And so that was the first time I was like really away from my family completely and totally independent. And also being in like a new context, new environment without knowing anyone at first. And so I think I learned a lot about myself through that and what I'm capable of, and just some things I really like. I learned about like things that I like and things that I dislike and things that I value, and about friendship and community. And I learned a lot about what I like to do. And so I actually got into reading a lot in Ecuador,
Mm,
just like for fun, and
yeah.
also doing art or like creative things, which I like here. I tend to be really busy and always like very involved in like a lot of different things. And I like used to play a bunch of sports. I like have school and I'm really involved in my church, like my family, my friends. But being in Ecuador where like none of those things were there,
Yeah.
and I had new friendships, but like I didn't have my family and all those other things. And so I think it created a space for me to have time to myself. And I think I really leaned into that and really enjoyed just having some restful time doing things that were just really fulfilling and would, yeah, just restful, that would help me process things and just spending time by myself. And I have tried to carry that into coming back home, of like making time to do those things, because I just really love doing it in Ecuador.
Yeah.
And so like bringing it back and carrying it into being back at home, and life is busy again and I'm now back in college at my campus. And so just trying to make intentional time to do those things that I really learned about myself. And yeah, and then I also learned so much about community, and I
Mm,
learned that that is a really important thing to me. So coming back, I've tried to really plug in and be really intentional, more so about being in community, and especially Christian community. Um, and I have life groups at my church, so I've been like really trying to be intentional while like always going to those, and just hanging out with my friends and my family, and just really pouring into those community areas of my life, because the community I made in Ecuador was just the best
mm.
and so
Yeah.
life changing, and really impacted me in a way that I want to now carry that into being back at home.
Great.
Another thing that I'd really encourage you to lean into in your semester abroad is getting to know the staff, but also maintaining your friendships. I got to know a lot of the staff on a more personal level, and I think I could we could all just tell how much they deeply cared about all of us, and were really personable with us, and just so loving and kind. And each and every one of them were just amazing, and they wanted to pour into our lives and support us. And so I would encourage you to lean into that and take advantage of that and go get lunch with them, go talk about life with them, get to know them, ask about their lives. Janelle, who also works with Living and Learning, she's one of the teachers and the director of academics, but she was one of these people for me, and I got to get really close with her, and we'd often like do some things outside of school, and we still stay in touch, and we just had a really sweet friendship. And I think it's because I realized how amazing they all are, and I tried so hard to be so intentional about like getting to know them, and they love it. Like they love getting how do I want to say this? Like they love getting to know us, and so I would just encourage you to be open with them and be willing to just put yourself out there, but also realize that like they're willing to put themselves out there too, and get to know one another. And you can create really special bonds with the staff and also the other students. Like Janelle, I actually got to see her this past summer because she was visiting in the U.S. and we got to actually meet up, and that was one of the most special things ever. And it's cool because to me, I feel like that just spoke volumes of, oh, this isn't just a phase, this isn't just a season of my life, it isn't just an Ecuador thing. Like these people really, really care about you and want to keep pouring into your life even once you're not living in Ecuador anymore.
Totally.
And I think that's super important. But also, some of the friends I made, I would definitely say they're lifelong friends. And so lean into that community and lean into those friendships. And it's important that like to maintain those friendships also when you move back to the US. Like some of my friends that I made, my really close friends, they live on the opposite side of the US from me. And it's hard because it takes more work than living in Ecuador when you're roommates with them versus now they live across the US. But you got to be super intentional about just pouring into those friendships. And I think that's something that's been really special to me, is that both of like my friends and I have just been trying to be so intentional about maintaining those friendships and keeping in contact and updating on how our lives are now that they're so different, because we all just did life together, and it was a really beautiful thing and a really beautiful season in my life of just doing life with all these other students from all over the US. But I think it's really cool to maintain that, even though it looks different, but still keep in touch. And I love every single person in my cohort so much. I miss them all, and they're just some of the best people. I just would encourage you to, if you're thinking about studying abroad, just go for it, because you will meet some of the most amazing people, and I guarantee you'll probably make lifelong friends, and you're going to learn and you're going to grow and you're going to try new things and experience new things, and you're going to meet all these just amazing people. You're going to experience new culture, and it will probably change your life in at least either in a small way or in a big way. And you're just going to learn a lot about yourself, about God, about just everything, your worldview. So if you're thinking about doing it, at least consider it, but you should totally do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sam, again, for sharing a little bit about what your experience in Quito looked like and telling us stories of ways that your worldview was enhanced and ways that you were empowered to continue pressing in to these big things that you had already maybe been learning about, but through a semester in Ecuador just really solidified and empowered you to continue thinking about those things. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today and for even giving some encouragement for students who maybe are on the fence or aren't sure what that could look like. I think your story helped paint a picture for what it could look like for them. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It was so good to see you.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending some time with us on this week's episode of the Living and Learning podcast. If you want to learn more about us, you can follow us on Instagram or find our website in the show notes of this episode. We cannot wait to get to know you more throughout this process.